This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com. And by ICOM. Heard it, worked it, logged it. Visit www.icomamerica.com/amateur for more information about ICOM radios.
It's Ham Radio.
Hello, everyone out there in cyberspace. This is Ham Talk Live, episode number 305. Jamboree on the air and Jamboree on the internet 2022, recorded on Monday, September 26th, 2022. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Kind of Live. Tonight, we're joined by Bill Stearns, NE4RD, and last episode, the Maluzzi brothers were here to talk about the Collegiate QSO Party. So if you missed that show, you can listen anytime over at hamtalklive.com or on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube if you prefer, or you can catch the rebroadcast over on WTWW shortwave, that's 5085 AM, Saturday afternoons, about 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'll be back with Bill Stearns, NE4RD, right after this word from ICOM America, right here on Ham Talk Live. Keep your competitive contesting edge with ICOM. Our high-powered base stations cut through pile-ups, letting you work the bands and record those contacts. Contests from the comfort of your own home or remotely with the RSBA One app. Heard it, worked it, logged it. The IC7851 gives you a new window into the RF world and is HF excellence unparalleled. With faster processors, high input gain, high display resolution, and a cleaner signal, it is truly the pinnacle of HF perfection. It has dual receivers, digital IF filters, memory keyer, digital voice recorder, Spectrum waterfall display, and an SD card slot. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR can pick out faint signals in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The IC7610 by ICOM is a direct sampling, software-defined radio that has changed the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. It has 110 dB RMDR, dual Digicel, dual receiver, and RF direct sampling. Create your own band opening with the IC9700. This transceiver radio brings direct sampling to the UHF VHF weak signal world. It's loaded with innovative features that are sure to keep you busy. Faster processors, higher input gain, higher display resolution, and a cleaner signal. With a 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectroscope and waterfall display, dual watch operation, full duplex in satellite mode, and smooth satellite operation with 99 satellite channels. The IC7300 is a high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design that will far exceed your expectations. The innovative transceiver digitizes RF before various receiver stages, reducing inherent noise in different IF stages. The IC7300 changed the way entry-level HF is designed. It has 15 discrete bandpass filters, the large color touchscreen, Spectrum scope, SD card slot, and RF direct sampling. The real HF fun starts here. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on ICOM radios.
A flashlight is a case for holding dead batteries. Now, here's Neil Rapp with more Ham Talk Live.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Tonight, Bill Stearns, NE4RD, joins us on the Orlando Amateur Radio Club and Hamcation Zoom line. Bill is the National Jamboree on the Air Task Force Chairman. He lives in Billings, Montana with his wife and 3 children. He's a life member of the ARRL and the president of the K2BSA Amateur Radio Association. He's active in stateside contesting with the Big Sky Contesters and Skywarn with Yellowstone County Aries. And he is a software and systems engineer, podcaster, and generally a nerdy guy. You can also find him over on Linux in the Ham Shack, where he's been a co-host since May of 2016, and also work with him on Amateur Radio Newsline from time to time on some radio scouting stuff. So, Bill, good to talk to you again. I think I've seen you since the last time we talked on the show.
Yeah, probably. I believe we ran into each other at Hamvention. That was the last time.
Yeah. So, we've had a brief, well, not so brief pause on a lot of things in the last few years. So it was good to see you at Dayton, but it's been, I think it was 2019 was the last time we had you on.
Yeah, it's probably been that long since we had a lot to talk about. You know, we all know what the world went through over those few years, and the activity that we're talking about today, of course, is Jamboree on the Air and Jamboree on the Internet, and it's still continued through COVID. Obviously with a reduced footprint around the world due to various restrictions and local restrictions depending upon where you lived in the world. You couldn't get a gathering of people together and stuff like that. So it really kind of, especially Jamboree on the Air side, really kind of took a little back seat for a few years. And we're really hoping to see that pick up. I know I've gotten a lot of emails kind of leading up to this next Jamboree, or Jamboree on the Air, which of course is taking place, really, really soon here in October, the 14th through the 16th. So it's always that, I believe it's that third weekend. I'm already going to forget what I'm supposed to say, right? Third full weekend.
Third full weekend of
October. Yeah. So, we're really excited to see, we allow people to borrow the K2BSA call sign and use that for their event portable in their areas. And we've got pretty much everywhere except for the Northeast. The 1, 2s, and 3s haven't been taken yet, but we're going to have a K2BSA call sign portable everywhere from 4 through 9 and 0, of course. And then we also have a KL7 that will be active in Alaska. Plus, they'll have a whole bunch of other stations because, this is the world's largest digital scout event taking place on the internet and over the airwaves. And the Jamboree on the Air, of course, is not just a U.S. event. It is a world event. It's organized by the World Organization of the Scouting Movement. And they have their own website there for Jamboree and Jamboree on the Air and Jamboree on the Internet. And that's that jotajoti.info, jotajoti.info. And, of course, that's where you'll sign in and register your station and your activities of what you're actually going to be doing during the Jamboree on the Air event. So definitely get over there, log in, sign up, sign in, and they'll also collect your after action reports for the event. And hopefully we'll get some good reporting and good numbers out of it this year. I know as we were just talking before the show that we haven't been able to generate a good after action report for Jamboree on the Air since 2019 due to some collection mechanisms and of course COVID going on. So hopefully this year we'll be able to put out a nice report with some numbers, and we'll kind of see where we're at post pandemic.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that's going, and I know a lot of the restrictions, even outside of the U.S., are starting to dwindle, and we'll see how that all plays out. But it's great to hear that you'll have some groups back on the air again. I know you could do some individuals, but that's kind of hard to do with a whole crew of scouts and probably not all of them licensed. So, it'll be great to get them on the air again. And of course, it's always, butted up against School Club Roundup. So there'll be plenty of young people on, that week in October. So, make sure you check that out as well. But, you mentioned the website. There is a registration process. So, for anybody out there that's wanting to get involved with getting scouts on the air, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, so definitely register what you're doing. And we do get this question and talk back every year about how do I make my Jamboree on the Air event successful? And if you're just planning it now, it probably is not going to be. On our website, the K2BSA.net website, you can find a whole slew of Jamboree on the Air resources. From a countdown calendar that provides you sort of like, month by month, how you should kind of plan your event. And this is an event that anybody can participate in. You do not have to have scouts there to actually participate. You can participate, fully on your own as an amateur. You can contact scouts, talk about your scouting history if you have any, and just talk about amateur radio and goodwill like we're supposed to do during the event. But let's say you are planning an event where you're going to have scouts. Of course, you have to follow all the youth protection guidelines of Too Deep leadership and all that other stuff that is required for the safety of minors. And how do you make it successful? Well, a lot of people think if they have a club and we have a club station and we just set up in a park or maybe at the clubhouse, that's going to be successful. We just invite scouts to come to us. And, if they don't show up, we don't know what we did wrong. But the way you really make it successful is you go to where the scouts are going to be. And that's the part of the planning that we really talk with people about, is that you need to be aware of the local scout calendar, whether that means your local troop, your local district, or your local council, depending upon how big you are, because some councils are, small in a geographical area, like the Tampa, Florida area. Even though I don't live there, it just comes to mind. There's multiple councils, but in the state of Montana, there's one council here. So, depending upon where you're at geographically, the size of those different structures of the hierarchy of scouting will be different. So you'll want to be able to contact whatever group is closest or local to whatever you're trying to do, and get their calendar, find out what they're doing the weekend of, the third weekend of October. Maybe they're at a camporee and they're having a camp out, or maybe they're doing popcorn sales, which normally happens really close to the same time, which kind of does interfere with stuff. But if they're planning on having ice cream social on a big sale weekend, a lot of times I see that happening, and you can literally put a pop-up ham radio station at those events, of course, talk to them and get permission and show up. And normally if you bring the radio to the scouts, it's always a success, no matter what. So that's the key to having an event work, is going to where the scouts already are. So you can show amateur radio, build antennas, do all kinds of different activities, whatever you're planning. We have one group down in Texas that is telling me they're going to be launching a balloon with the K2BSA call sign on it. So I'm kind of excited to see that. So we have given them permission to do that. And they're also going to run a station down there as K2BSA Portable 5 in Houston, Texas. We had a lot of interest this year out of Texas for that 5 call sign, but it does. We do assign it in order of the reservations coming in. So the earlier you reserve that K2BSA call sign for your calling area, the better. And if you're in the calling areas of 1, 2, or 3, it's still available for Jamboree on the Air and Jamboree on the internet.
There you go. So if you're out there in New England, get in there and do it, but you're going to have to hurry.
Yeah. So one thing that they do with the national registry or the world registration over there on the jotajoti.info site, it's always so hard to say. They do give you a JamPuzz ID, and this has been the same for several years now. And it's a identifier that other groups are collecting, and so that's the key to getting the sign-ins over there and signing up, because that registers you to receive that JamPuzz ID that others are collecting. So it's kind of like a little mini game that's going on during Jamboree on the air, Jamboree on the internet, because some groups won't be on the air at all. Some groups will just be on the internet doing things on, Minecraft, IRC, Zoom, and, Skype and a whole bunch of other things. And then other groups will just be solely on the air. But the one thing that threads them all together is this little mini game that you can collect the IDs, and then if you go over to the national or the international site, you can find all that information out on their virtual camping ground there that they have, and they have all kinds of information and resources for you for those various items that they're doing, including promotional information if you're looking for logos and stuff like that. You can find all kinds of stuff there. And lots. There's always lots of stuff going on for Jota Jodi. It's just such a huge event.
It is. And it's funny. The more I work with Yoda, the more I hear about Jota, because it's like, oh yeah, we get these scouts on the air, and we go out and set up and put them on the air. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And then once you get them going, then we'll keep them. We'll keep them in ham radio. And so it's a great recruiting thing. It's a great exposure to get people on the air. And like so many people say, you never know when, even if they don't get a license, if they grow up and end up being president of your HOA, that can't hurt.
Yeah, and a lot of people's first experience, as scouts with amateur radio is Jamboree on the air. So I do find it fascinating that so many people, even in the ham radio community, that just happen to be scouts. The first time they remember being on the air was at a Jamboree on the air. So, and this is the 64th. If I'm doing my math correctly, I believe they started in 1958. So this has been going on for quite a while, and it's touched a lot of people's lives over the years. And even if you're not a scouter, you can still participate in Jamboree on the air, because you're going to hear people up there in the general portion of the bands talking and saying CQ Jota, CQ Jota. And don't be afraid to answer them back. I realize there's some contests going on. I think there's even a couple of QSO parties that goes on the same weekend. But don't be afraid to work them and give the scouts a chat, and you can tell them about your ham radio experience. And that's normally they find that kind of stuff interesting. It's always a big eye-opening and big smile moment when these scouts get on the air, and because we kind of put the microphone in front of them and say, here, have fun. They have a script, you might get silly questions like, what's your favorite color and stuff like that. But sometimes, you get somebody that's interested in it, and then maybe they want to take that next step and get a license and become part of the community. So it's always an opportunity to open up our ham radio community to the youth, which obviously, you're directly involved in with youth on the air. And we all know that it is a vital portion of the survivability of the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I've found, in working with youth and just in general, is having that script so that they have something to go off of. And so, you should be prepared to get those questions like, what's your favorite color, or, what's your school's mascot, or those kinds of things, and maybe even have some questions for the scouts thought up ahead of time. They like to talk about what they're doing at school, what other extracurricular things that they're involved in, what merit badges or what class they're working on in scouting. And so those might be some things that you can kind of prepare to ask, that they'll be able to answer a little easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could kind of get that idea from, again, the K2BSA website, because we have some of those scripts available for scouts. It's definitely in the guidelines for amateur radio operators and the JOTA guidelines for scout leaders. You can find some real good information in both of those areas on how you can make your event successful, how to kind of get over the mic fright, and we do this. This is like an annual practice for a lot of us guys that are in the K2BSA that do the National Jamboree, where we, have thousands and thousands of scouts come through the amateur radio tent, and we get them, every single one of them, on the air. And it's definitely interesting at scale to see these demonstration stations and how they work. And some events are really small. I've set up in as small as a little canopy here in town in Billings, and just a little park, and had dozens of scouts come over, and that was a lot of fun. And your event could have hundreds of scouts if you go to a camporee, or even 500 or 1,000. So yeah, it all depends on how you set up and where you set up, how big your event will be. But the thing is it's just fun. I mean, that's what we always asked our scouts when they come to the meeting for the first time, and ask them what's the purpose of scouting? It's to have fun, and that's basically what we want to share as part of this Jamboree on the Air event as well. Is like, we want to have fun and use amateur radio to do it, and show people how to talk on the radio, and hey, you could show them FT8 if you want, but I don't think you'll get a lot of interest in clicking buttons and stuff like that. So definitely, dust off the microphone. I know some of you, I'm crossing, wiggling my fingers at you. You can plug in the microphone just this one weekend and talk. It's fine. It won't hurt you either.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting on a Zoom meeting and turning on your camera. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I love the suggestion of going to the scouts and not just, oh, hey, let's go set up at park and we'll, tell everybody, we're inviting scouts. That, some coordination definitely helps, and, that's a great suggestion. So, all right. Well, we're going to talk some more about the Jamboree on the Air and Jamboree on the Internet 2022 with Bill Stearns, NE4RD, right after this word from Tower Electronics, right here on Ham Talk Live.
Thanks for choosing Tower Electronics. How may we help you today? We have PL259s. We have in connectors. We have SMA adapters. We have BNC adapters. What can I show you today?
Where's the tower?
Well, we don't actually have a tower with us, but we have all kinds of things you can use with a tower. We have power poles, antennas, soldering irons, and meters.
Where's the tower?
Ma'am, that's the name of our company. We can't haul towers to all the Hamfests across the country that we visit, but we have almost every connector and adapter you would need to connect your antenna that's on your tower.
I don't think there's a tower back there. I really don't.
Tower Electronics. Visit us at a Hamfest near you or call 920-435-2973 or see our whole catalog at pl-259.com. Sorry, one thing we don't have is a tower.
And the Tower Electronics Hamfest schedule, the big one down in Belton, Texas, October 1st, Crestview, Florida, October 15th, Chickasaw, Alabama, October 22nd, that's North Mobile, Alabama. Or you can visit them anytime at pl-259.com.
Ham Talk Live with Neil Rapp.
Welcome back to Ham Talk Live. Make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll let you know when new episodes are coming your way. And we're going to talk with Bill Stearns, NE4RD, with the K2BSA here in just a little bit about Jamboree on the air and Jamboree on the internet. But before we do that, it is time once again for the N9 GSU Joke of the Week.
Now it's time for the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week, the part of the show where Rick tells us a ham radio joke. The Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week is brought to you by QRM Labs. Now, here's Rick Garrett in 9 GSU with today's Ham Talk Live Joke of the Week.
I think we'd all agree that ham radio is not a cheap hobby. I decided I needed a part-time job in order to fuel my addiction to ham radio, so I took a job at the clock factory. I got fired after about a week. Apparently, I was putting too many extra hours in.
This has been the Ham Talk Live Ham Radio Joke of the Week with Rick Garrett in 9 GSU. Tune in again next week for another joke from Rick.
You know, Bill, there's just not enough hours in the day.
Got to add those extra tick marks on the clock.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, thanks, Rick, for the joke of the week. And we're here with Bill Stearns, NE4RD, with the K2BSA Amateur Radio Association and the upcoming Jamboree on the air and Jamboree on the internet, the third weekend of October. And I saw the new patch. It looks pretty sharp. Tell us about this year's patch.
Yeah, so National put together the patch this year, as they have for the last couple of years, and it's a really nice sort of like a square with a rounded edge, one rounded corner. So very interesting shape, and has all the symbols that you would normally see: a microphone, a mouse, an antenna tower, and a Wi-Fi symbol. But that's okay. We know how ham radio works. We're going to use that tower and put some signal up in the air. But yeah, you can find the patch. It's available from the Scout Shop. That's scoutshop.org. And that's the National Scout Shop for the Scouts BSA. And you can find it if you just search for Jota 2022 emblem. I believe they are running $3.49 a piece. And they are still in stock, which, at this point, that's pretty much a miracle, because normally they sell out pretty fast. They just came out, I believe, about a month ago. So availability was then. So, if you want some patches for your group and you haven't ordered them yet, so go right in and order those patches, because, they do look sharp this year.
Yeah, they kind of look like Missouri.
Yeah, they do.
So there you go. So Bill, I'm gonna get my scout group on the air, and I'm going to get on 14.290, right?
Oh no, not 14.290.
Well, I could have said 7,200, but
yeah, there is the myth, and I call it the myth because I don't know. We've published it so many times that yes, there are the World Organization for Scout Movement calling frequencies. And as we all know, as amateurs with the 2-meter calling frequency, it means you don't necessarily have to be on it, but you can establish your communication and move off of it. But what we do is we recommend that you kind of start in the general portion of the band, and that's where you move your nice big dial in front of that beautiful rig that you're going to show to the scouts here. Yeah, 14.290, you're going to have some stations probably hammering each other, calling CQ Jota on top of each other. So I highly recommend that you, move the dial. That's what the dial's made for. You just just jog it off to the right, even just do a quick little spin and, put yourself up there, in the 300 range. The 320 to 340 is a really good range too, especially for low power and portable operations and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to kind of tune around and look for a clear spot and just call CQ. That's the best way to do it. If you stay on 290, you will run into some QRM from other groups that are, possibly having, some inexperienced hams on HF. It's not uncommon. We do a lot of training every 4 years for the National Jamboree to get our HF operators up to speed on how to kind of really control a frequency and stuff like that. But when it comes to Jamboree on the air, all bets are off because you're going to have every skill level of HF operator out there, especially in the HF areas. Now, there are some other alternatives besides HF. A lot of people just get on Echolink. Echolink's a great option to try out if you still want to do voice. And obviously, you could do that with the internet, so you don't even need RF. But you could go RF and connect up to. There's a conference node called Star Jota. -365 star. So that's the conference node. I don't have the number, but everybody looks it up by name anyways. So yeah, it's JOTA-365. You can find that available. And normally that's a lot of people will connect from all over the world on that. So, but you do have to take your turn when you're on that. Another option is over on D-Star, Reflector 033 Alpha. So Reflector 033A is a very popular radio scouting D-Star reflector. We have had lots of success using that over the years. Let's see what else we have. There's many talk groups over on DMR Brandmeister. I don't know many of them offhand. Thinking like 907 comes to mind. So there are some talk groups over there. You can search it up, I believe, through the website for Brandmeister. You can just search for Jota, and you'll probably find a bunch of them there. A lot of people have been having some success using that because there's just obviously so many people participating in that. Let's see what else. Think about using some modes where if you want to do digital, and we do get the people that want to do digital. You remember this thing called BPSK? Back when we used to just type and hit the transmit button, or maybe even RIDI. I've actually I've worked a few BPSK 32 calls or 31, BPSK 31.
Yep.
During Jota, and have had some really fun conversations, just typing conversations. I don't really recommend it, but like if you want to try it, it is kind of it's kind of nostalgic now because hardly anybody is on there. So it might be something interesting to show if you wanted to show live typing. As opposed to FT8. I mean, you can always show FT8 as kind of like an ancillary thing. A lot of people get kicks out of the mapping thing, the grid tracker and stuff like that, all the bells and whistles and stuff like that. I think it's mostly us as ham radio people. We like that stuff. The kids probably don't really get it so much.
Not going to carry on much of a conversation there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and if you do get on HF and you're working some DX, and let's hope that these band conditions improve and we're not totally wiped out by solar storms or stuff like that. Have a conversation with them, when they say, oh, you talk to, Europe or something like that. Well, I can do that on my phone. What I always tell them to do is, put your phone in airplane mode and try to do it. Because you can't do it without, the trillions of dollars of infrastructure between you and Europe. But like that little piece of wire or that vertical antenna that somebody has here on your station is doing it without anything else in between. It's the magic of ham radio and the magic of wireless communications, and that's what we're showing.
Well, absolutely, well said. And if you're on HF, you don't have to be even on 20 meters.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of bands. You just press the band button up and down. It's amazing.
It works. It works.
It does.
This up down band thing. Yeah. Amazing. What about? Okay, I got to ask because my latest mode is satellite. Any satellite activity?
Well, there normally is. You know how satellites work. It is a little bit faster pace. So it's not really an appropriate area for maybe a scout to actually make the contact, but it's a great demonstration. I've seen, handheld, satellite operations kind of go through, just going through the motions and discussing exactly how this whole process works with the satellite is is normally tumbling, and that's what causes a lot of the warbliness of the signal. And then you also have the Doppler shifting. You can talk about how the frequency changes as it's, down low and then moves across. And, it's always kind of cool to show that, handheld arrow or elk antenna or whatever you're using. And, maybe have somebody demoing and holding the antenna and just pointing it at the bird as it flies by. I think it's such a cool thing to watch. It's not necessarily a cool thing to participate in unless you're a ham radio guy. It's not real interactive with that, getting the scout on the air and maybe the repeater ones, you can probably get away with it because there's not as much, that the user has to do. Where like the linear birds are more, temperamental, even though we have all kinds of software and everything else to do all that stuff these days. I don't think it's a great, this is my only mode is satellite mode. It wouldn't be my go-to, but it's a beautiful thing to demonstrate. Same thing with balloons and amateur radio direction finding. It's a great opportunity to build some antennas. There's just so many activities you can kind of rope into it, but think about, keeping it simple and making sure that you can actually, deliver on everything that you put together. Cause, sometimes you just don't have enough volunteers to do everything. That's generally the case when you're planning events. You really have to staff up and have people around to do all these wonderful things that you want to do. Just do what you can do and execute and have fun.
All right. So it's jotajoti.info. And that's coming up October 14, 15, and 16 on a radio and a Wi-Fi node near you. So, make sure you check out the Wi-Fi, right?
Plenty of Wi-Fis.
That's 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. That counts. So,
Yeah, it does.
All right. And the patches are there. So, if you want those, order soon. And, don't forget registration, is on, jotajoti.info. And, I know we talked a little bit before the show, getting those numbers are have been a little tricky with the COVID and not having everybody together. But if people can register on there, at least you're going to get some kind of feedback for this year.
Yeah, and generally you can. They normally have a list of participants and stuff like that, so you can kind of search through with some success. It's more geared towards international community. So for us U.S. people that care about city and everything else and location, it's not terribly useful for that. Maybe next year we'll get back to doing the local registration on that, and then maybe partnering again with our good friends at ICOM America to give out a handheld for some lucky after action report reporter. So not this year. Sorry, we didn't put everything together to do that this year, but definitely participate. Definitely as soon as you register on the jotajoti.info site, they'll send you an email. They'll also send you your JamPuzz ID, and then they'll follow up after the event with an after action report, so you can report back. And also feel free to email us at K2BSA.net. You can email us at info at K2BSA.net. And we'll take your report and we'll get it up and available for people. If you want to share pictures and what you had for success, we would love that information. But don't expect an end of action report from us specifically this year. I'm going to shoot for that next year. It's definitely participate and have fun.
All right. That's the big thing, is have fun. So get on the air, work some of these scouts. If you get a chance, to put something together, with the scouts, that'd be great to get them on the air, but, they need people to talk to just like everybody else. So get on the air and give them a call. Well, Bill, thanks so much for being on the show today. Appreciate it. And it's great to talk to you again about this, and looking forward to a lot of activity here in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, great talking to you again, and thanks for having me.
That is a wrap for this edition of Ham Talk Live. Thanks to my guest, Bill Stearns, NE4RD, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening, and invite you back next time for a list of all of our upcoming guests. Visit hamtalklive.com. So for now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7-3-7-5, and may the good DX be yours.
So 73s to you and your family. I'll be seeing you further down below. Your 73s to you and your family. I'll be seeing you further down below.
It's hard to believe that you're into the deal, 'cause you sound just like a local up here. But why don't those whistling Mediterraneans check if the frequency's clear? We're warm.